right, DJ Anubis here.
And DJ Nectar.
The Middle Time Radio Podcast. And we have special guests, Sophist, if I pronounce that right. Sophist.
Yeah, I say Sophist, yeah.
So we have Davis and Helge, guitarist, and Davis, I believe you're vocals and programming. Is that correct?
Yep, correct. Yeah.
All right, cool. So you guys are out of Alberta, Canada, and a lot of great many bands came from out of there and still have. So that's a good scene. What is the scene like out there as far as metal is concerned?
You can go first, Helge.
It's a small but very tight group. It seems like there's new bands every year. There's a lot of younger people nowadays. By younger, I mean like mid-20s, forming bands and playing shows.
That's cool.
And it's in all of our major cities here, pretty much.
Cool. Any comments, Davis?
Yeah. I mean, I think that sums it up. It's small and tight scene, particularly in Edmonton. Calgary has got like triple the population, so it's a little bit bigger there now. And yeah, I mean, I think it kind of shrunk a bit when, during the pandemic, but it's rebounding now for sure.
Yeah, COVID really messed with a lot of stuff when like touring and stuff like that for metal bands and bands in general, but metal really gets hurt because they kind of rely so much on that stuff. So when it comes to your band name, Sophist, how did you come about it and what does it mean?
Yeah, I mean, basically it just one of those things where it basically popped into my head. Probably one of the first and only names I really thought of using. Basically, it's just like, a sophist or somebody that's using sophistry. It's just the use of clever and false arguments to deceive people. I don't know. I thought it was better than calling your band like Deceiver or something like that.
Yeah, I often run into that occasionally when I'm looking up bands. Like, there's like 12 or 15 of them with the same name. Like, come on, guys, someone get original here, just please. So your music's been described as black metal and sort of like grindcore. Would that be an accurate statement to make?
Yeah, I think now there's some more death metal elements that are kind of appearing in the stuff we're working on, and also adding more electronic elements as well. Definitely like the first EP and the first album were really deep into black metal and grindcore sound, and then since then it's been adding those other elements a bit more.
Nice. Now, I know it's not unheard of, but like you guys released both Dissolution and Putrefaction in the same year. Is there any reason why you do that? Like, you not just hold on to stuff, or it's just because you had all the material there and you just wanted to get it out? Like, what was the purpose of 2 albums in the same year?
Yeah, I mean, the point with this band was always we just wanted to do lots of recording. It's been a studio project since it started. So yeah, we haven't been playing live or anything like that. So the whole point was always just, we want to do lots of recording. And in 2019 and 2020, when those were recorded and released, that was, we were all living in the same city still, and we had lots of time to meet up and work on that. And yeah, we just really enjoyed it. So we just kept doing it.
Nice. Do you guys have any particular like influences that influence the music, or you lyrically, or just in general?
Yeah, sure. Helge, do you want to start?
Yeah, there's a great, I suppose, gamut of performers that I enjoy, and that changes a lot. By changing, I mean it gets broader because I work in music production a lot. So I'll meet guitar players from, a country on Tuesday, a metal band on Thursday, another metal band on Saturday, and some string instrument players from some orchestra or some kids show on Sunday, and they all have something to contribute to, even if you just hear their opinion. Okay, what do you like? What shapes your compositions? What shapes what you're doing? And a lot of these guys, it's surprising, and everybody likes Eddie Van Halen. And as for me, I like the same music as not the same music entirely as the other two fellas, but there's a great many crossover acts that we really like, that we all really like. And then other people will bring stuff to the table. Like, I like traditional metal, speed metal, pretty much any kind of metal. My favorite guitar player was Randy Rhoads, for a metal guitar player. And I like all of it. I like all guitar music. So Sophist gave me a chance to tap into everything. Mm-hmm. So I started out on cello when I was, I think, 5 years old in classical music, and moved to guitar when I was probably 14 or 15 years old. I think 14. And after that, I played in all kinds of different bands, hard rock bands, metal bands, industrial metal bands, all kinds of things, right? But something that we can all agree on is that industrial metal, we haven't really seen, like, as far as I am thinking, in my exposure to it, I think there's a lot of room there.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Some of my inspirations, take a lot of influence from, for this project, take a lot of influence from grindcore and black metal bands. I remember, I think in 2016, I was kind of talking to some people looking to start something like this, maybe even a little earlier than that. And it didn't really wind up happening until about 2019. But Napalm Death, Rotten Sound.
Napalm Death.
Yeah, so those are probably the biggest ones on the grindcore thing. Anel and the Thrack, which is already pretty much a black metal grindcore band. That's definitely one of my favorites.
Do you like the direction that Anal and the Thrack has gone within the last 4 or 5 records?
Yeah, I pretty much like all of their albums. I think their whole discography is really good. And an associated act to that is Fuck Pig. They're really good too. Yeah, definitely enjoy them and take some influence from there. And then just as far as black metal goes, huge Dark Throne fan. I like all eras of their stuff, and definitely, particularly on the first album, Dissolution and Betrothal to the Stone, Conception of Mephisto, that EP. I think production-wise, I took a lot of inspiration from their stuff. Obviously, key difference being the drums, because theirs are programmed. But yes, Satyricon. Then on the death metal side, like Suffocation.
Yeah,
one of my favorites there.
Suffocation is so great live too. So great.
I think the last time I saw them was Metal Fest Mexico last year.
Oh wow!
But Yeah. So when we're sitting around talking, it's pretty amazing. Like just the sheer number of bands that we can talk about and obscure projects that we can talk about too. I don't know how obscure it is, but I liked. I think it's called Thorns. I like that one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
A
Thorns
lot.
is a very good one.
Yeah, it was interesting you brought up the whole like industrial because there is a lot of room there. Because really, when it comes to my thought about it, like I know, Fear Factory always been a long term in there, even though they've kind of progressed beyond what they started out at. But you had what was Shane's like band Meat Hook Seed was very cool. They were doing some stuff. So yeah, I think it's kind of cool that you decide to kind of go in there and make your way. You can broaden that genre a little bit.
And the big one, probably for that genre that we know here in North America, is probably Ministry, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know, a lot of people don't consider them to be metal, but I don't know.
Yeah, they're pretty versatile. I mean, they've done some stuff that's probably more rock oriented, but then they had like the NWO song, and just like and then I think of stuff like Godflesh too, So there's a lot of different stuff in there. But yeah, Ministry, they're great live too. I seen them years ago. So
I think I worked with them about 3-4 years ago, just setting up their show and taking it back out. But I think Just One Fix, Ministry, that Ministry track, that's pretty metal. The guitar playing is pretty metal in that, right?
Yeah.
Very thrashy, and I really like thrash metal too. All kinds of metal, pretty much over here. But I like the traditional Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, Ozzy Osbourne, Black Sabbath stuff. But I think early on I heard like the first Megadeth, I think it was, on vinyl. Like that was a long time ago, like when it first came out. We heard that, and that was a big game changer. And I think the same year for me was like Slayer, Merciful Fate, stuff like that, all in around the same time, because it was a big year for that kind of music. That was 1983 or 84, and that totally changed my way of thinking about guitar rhythm, that's for sure. Like Merciful Fate is a big deal over here. I got I think everything Merciful Fate, every recording of Merciful Fate here someplace.
Nice.
I've got one other influence that I definitely cannot forget to mention. It's this Indonesian band called Kekel that I've been listening to forever.
Oh, I want you to hold on to that thought because I have some questions with you about that.
Okay, sure. Pretty obscure band, and really like interesting and insane discography. Just like covering almost like every genre of music out there in some way or another. It's a pretty good one.
Now you said that Sophist is basically a studio band. So is this just your primary baby, or do you have like other projects you're involved in, or how's that work?
Yeah, this is the primary one for me now. There was a Edmonton death metal band before this, Cryosphere. We played some shows and did a small couple of tours. And I was also in a Edmonton band here called With Malice, and that was a while ago now. And then kind of before Sophist started and before the pandemic, we did a death metal band called Sallow Regent. That was with Brent Bell from here, who's also in Cryosphere and With Malice. And yeah, I mean, I enjoyed that. It had some potential, I think, but ultimately the pandemic killed it. And our one guitar player and songwriter was from Calgary, and he just kind of stopped coming up here because it's like a 3-hour drive.
Oh wow!
And just because think his work situation changed, and
Mhm.
then our other guitar player, which is also Michael from this band, he moved to Kamloops as well in BC. So it's distance and the pandemic kind of killed that one, unfortunately. And now I'm just content with studio projects, to be honest. So yeah, maybe Helge wants to talk about his stuff now.
I get asked to play guitar on some stuff. I'll probably be doing some fill-in gigs for some people around town now that shows have started again. There's a few people whose schedules have changed and they can't make every show, so we get together on Mondays sometimes here. We go to like a local pub in the giant mall, West Edmonton Mall, and we talk about metal and we talk about what everybody's doing, and they come to me with some technical problems maybe, or something that some can work some old boy magic and fix for them or whatever, and or vice versa. They can work some young guy magic and fix something for me. So I might play some fill-in stuff. There might be some more projects coming up. Nobody's really used to the idea that we can play out again yet. And work schedules and stuff like that are really strange here because of the city that we live in and the nature of the musicians that play in a lot of these bands, or will play in a lot of these bands. They're blue collar guys, so they work shift work. It's all over the place. Like you can't say, hey, can you come here on whatever time Saturday, right? And they have no idea whether they can do that or not. Not because they can't commit, but their day job has to come first, right? If they get asked to work on it, they're going to go there. And I work in music and music production and theater production. So I don't know if I can work on Saturday either, work on music on Saturday. So that makes it a little...
that night.
Yeah. Like, I think yesterday all day I was out somewhere. Tomorrow night I'll be out at a gig, unloading or loading the gigantic gig that's here this week, which is a country guy called Luke Combs.
Oh yeah, he's really popular.
Yeah, I'll be working at that one. So and I'll probably do a couple of fill-in gigs for some of the younger bands around. I got asked to do that. People ask me to play guitar quite a bit around here, especially because of Sophist too. They can see that I could be a good addition, right? And in my past, I played in quite a few different bands. Way back, considerable number of bands, but probably since the 2010s, there's been 4 that I've worked with, which was Death Assembly. I did an album with them. Dead Cold, I think I did 2 records over there. And then Sadistic Embodiment, I did 4 EPs over there. I think 4 EPs in a year over there. And then, and all those, I think all those you can hear on streaming sites. And then I got asked to, or invited to join Sophist after they did the first EP. And I liked the idea that it was just going to be a studio thing, and it could be more, it sounded more anything goesy than these other kind of bands, right? These other bands were pretty limited in what their scope, right? This is what we want to do. We know that you can do this here, and there was no experimenting there or anything like that. Let's try this, let's try that was out of the question there. They just wanted straight up do this, and we know you can do that, so just do that. And there was no growth there at all. All those records all sound the same to me. They do.
Yeah.
For people involved, but the guitars all sound the same. Nothing's changed.
So with Sophist, what is the writing like thematically? Like, what do you write about? What are the themes?
Yeah, I mean lyrically. Yeah, I mean one thing is we've like I guess I should say I've never published our lyrics, and that was always the intention from the beginning. Initially, and this probably stems from the kind of stuff I was writing about in some of the previous death metal bands. It was just kind of continuation, like almost fantastical or occult themes having to do with like alchemy and stuff. And then on the first album, Dissolution, there's lots of nihilism and despair and hopelessness for humanity. Then
You said you did that one before the pandemic?
Yes, because it was released in February 2020.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, that would be very interesting time. It is kind of interesting timing, like,
Yeah.
Foresee.
Yeah. And then after that, that's kind of a transition period on Putrid Faction. Still some of the same previous themes. Started to talk more about politics, and then since then it's mostly been political themes.
Okay. Anything to add, Helge?
The lyrics, were not that involved in writing the lyrics. We do the string work on the recordings.
Mhm.
Me and Michael do that.
Okay.
So just like anyone who might be interested in the technical end of that part, we were tuned down to, I think, B standard. And this new album, we came up a whole step to C standard, but I used the 7-string on some of them. On 2 records, I think we used 7 strings for those. And then this one's down to C standard, and that's a 6-string. This old relic guitar that I have, I used for that. And the new one, I think I'm gonna try to use 8 strings if they agree. Yeah, if they agree, there's gonna be some 8-string stuff on it.
Oh wow, cool.
So when you get together and record, do you actually get together, or do you do some things remotely and share it with each other, do the mixing and go back and forth?
The actual recording's done in person.
Oh, that's cool.
Basically, how it starts, I basically plan and map out the skeleton of the songs and kind of get them prearranged. And then after they've had time to write their parts and work on that, then we meet up and record. And that's true when we were all living in the city. But now that Michael's moved to Kamloops, I mean, what happened last year was he came down during the summer, and then we recorded all his parts for the new EP, Avenger Liberator. And then that's probably what we're going to do again this year, because we already have some new skeletons ready to go. So.
You guys have been busy.
Yeah, so Michael drove in, and he and I were in contact over like video chats and stuff like that. So he'll tell me what ideas he has for which tracks, and when we're working in these are called, track 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. And he'll tell me, okay, in this track, I kind of want to do this, and he'll show me and tell me what he's playing there, and then I'll write it out in tablature. And then when he's doing his sessions, whatever downtime there is, I'll make sure that the tabulatures are correct, because usually there's just enough time to get through his stuff, what he's going to lay down first, because usually he's only here for a weekend. So asking somebody to do guitar, like what we're doing and then do the bass guitar stuff for that record all in one weekend is a pretty tall order, right? And I'm here in the same city as Davis, so I can go back and do those tracks later, provided we stay kind of organized. Then it won't be it'll make it easier if we stay organized. So then I'll usually try to write whatever supplemental parts before we have Michael in to record, and I'll just make sure that they're going to work out. Like I'll be there and be thinking in my head that they're going to work out, or any changes that he's going to make. I'll write that out in tabulature and write notes about it, so that when I get my turn to come in, I can be that much more prepared, instead of wondering like when did we do this, how did we do this? Because last time I think we did Michael's tracks in July, Davis?
Yeah.
And then I came in February, March, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
there's a bit of a break, yeah.
Yeah, that's a long time to forget how to do this stuff, right? So I did maintenance on it. I double checked everything, kind of thing. And I think it went smooth last time, Davis, because we had good notes. Yeah.
You were quite technical.
On my end of it, I make sure I'm going to be prepared, because it's frustrating if you can't, if you don't know what's the matter with something. Like music that's played at this speed, if you don't know it can take a little while to figure out what's the matter with something. And usually it's just one note's missing or one note's been added. It throws the whole thing out of time. And that can happen because you just remember it differently than what's there, right? That, I don't think it's happened before, but it did happen where we made changes that weren't written down, and those changes we forgot, or I forgot that those changes had been made. So I kind of was a little bit caught by surprise. Went in, but I still got it done.
And I think with your classical training, like you're saying, you write everything out in tablature. You're able to really take good notes. That's really, key for the group, so that you're able to, come back at a later time and, polish things, add, accompaniment. It sounds amazing.
And then you can practice it too at home, instead of showing up and trying to, trying to play this thing for the first time in 6 months or whatever, last. That how are you going to do that? Some of these things are pretty brisk. I don't know if you heard much of the records, but some of this stuff is at a pace that you should really practice it.
So it kind of becomes like a muscle memory while you're doing it.
Practice it at a slower pace for a little while first.
That's a good point, because I do have a quick clip from the Dissolution record called Watching From Below. So here's a quick clip of some of the earlier stuff right here. Yeah, so it's very chaotic, as you were talking about.
Yeah, it's pretty quick. Like you don't have a lot of time to, there can't be any doubts in your mind what you're trying to do. Like, is it this note or is it that note? There's no time for that. You have to know. And I think my job in Sophist has always been to try and make it sound like bigger, include some ensemble playing and stuff. So I'll write like additional parts and work those out here at my house before I ever go back over there, back to Davis's house.
Now, Davis, you mentioned that you use a drum machine. Is there a particular reason for that? Is it just you can't find a drummer out there, or is it just you prefer that type of approach?
Yeah, I mean, for whatever reason, I've always been not opposed to the use of drum machines. I've always been interested in a number of bands that actually make use of them. So, yeah, I mean, I know some people are pretty not interested in that. But, I think probably the biggest thing was like with an Alma track, obviously that's all programmed drums for the recorded stuff anyways. So it's just like, I think that probably showed me like a number of years ago that like, yeah, you can do this and you can make it sound really good. Of course, I'm not saying our stuff is anywhere near their level, but yeah, that was probably, I guess, the impetus for that. And I don't know, like, I think if we did decide to go live one day, then maybe we would probably look more at a real drummer. But
he's gonna have to really
suits
work.
us now.
We actually saw a duo. It was a local band. Remember?
Well, they weren't local. They were from Washington, but they used sound machines
Yeah.
basically and drum machines, and there was just a pair of them. The one guy would sing, the other guy was doing all his work on it. It was pretty fucking amazing.
Yeah, but I'm also talking about that. That was what are they called? We
It's been
just
a
saw
while.
them.
It's been a while.
But this was when like before the pandemic, and it was the local band here. They had that Battle of the Bands. It was a guitarist and a bassist and a drum machine. And they had it all programmed and figured out, and it worked fine. I mean, I don't see any problem, especially if you can you've been practicing with it for so long, you can even incorporate more into the stage production too, to have it like that. Oh, At the Heart of the World.
Okay.
That was the one. That's the one from Washington. We just saw them a couple of months ago, and it's a very interesting band. But that's the thing. Like, I personally have no problem with drum machines. I think it's cool.
Especially if you're a studio band, it's not really that important if that's what you're just doing. I mean, live, it's like, I know it becomes a problem sometimes with live because you're trying to find a drummer who can actually keep pace, realistically with what's going on the record. But yeah, I don't have a problem with that. Probably listen to a dozen bands that use that kind of stuff. So and I'm a big Alan Nathfrak fan too. So clearly, no problem.
I don't know if we're gonna find a drummer that can.
You're gonna have to give him some.
You're gonna have to like search the depths of hell to find that guy.
I travel a little bit. Like, I have relatives in Germany and stuff like that. So, and I travel around Europe sometimes, and I go to Mexico sometimes. I've seen some pretty crazy drummers, but I'm not sure I could think of any off the top of my head that could cover that, what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important to maybe not think of having a live drummer all the time, because you're going to see more and more bands break away from it. Right now in studio production, lots of times everything's just programmed with plugins.
Why do you think that is?
It's cheaper. You can do it in your grandma's basement, and no one would ever know, because you could do it with your headphones on, and you could program drums all night in your granny's basement, and you'll never even wake her up from her nap. Whereas you could bring in a drummer with a monster drum kit and stuff like that, and rent a gigantic big room, rent all the mics, some kid sitting there watching levels, for you while you get everything done, while you handle the music side of it and stuff like that. And it's not going to sound, it may sound better, maybe, but that's a lot of trouble to go through for if it might sound better.
Right.
Maybe it'll sound better. I think probably the logical step for this would be if we like for the new stuff we're working on, is if I decided to hire a session drummer just to record the stuff. That'd probably be the most logical thing to do if we did decide to do real drums. And yeah, see how that turned out, I guess. But as far as earlier stuff goes, I mean, I consciously chose to like make it a little bit over the top.
Yeah.
So, I mean, as far as trying to recreate that, could be difficult, not impossible, but very difficult.
Yeah, vastly. Yeah. One thing I noticed about the production between the first two records and the new EP is the new EP sounded a little bit more fuller. Was that kind of intentional? Like, did you approach it differently production wise?
Sorry, it sounded more
fuller. Like,
full. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you know, like I think that I probably made some mistakes on the early stuff that I wish I could turn back time and fix. But you learn how to do things better as you go, and go from there. I mean, I think probably I like the sound of our first EP and Dissolution the most. I think probably could have done a better job on Putrid Faction. And I think probably Avenger Liberators are best stuff yet. And I'm looking forward to the new stuff we're working on now, how that's going to turn out in the end. So
yeah, I did notice on the new EP that you talked about kind of going a little bit more deathy, and I do hear that a lot. And I do a little tasty morsel from your new EP.
Tasty morsel.
It's called Piercing the Nerve Center. Actually, kind of really like what you were doing with the guitars in there as well. Kind of a little melody in there.
Everybody's getting better at their job here. That's what's happening. Like for every subsequent recording, everything's going to be a little bit better at it. Everyone's going to be a little bit better at their job, and we're going to know like what's going to fly and what's not going to fly. Even though we don't really have I don't get too many limitations put on what I want to do, but I usually bring as many options as I can think of when I come to do my parts, and my parts are kind of like enhancement parts. Like the rhythm skeleton's already done there by Michael, and so I'll this time I learned everything that he had there already, and then I wrote supplemental parts, like additional parts to that, right? And that was one of the little parts that I think we came up with together in the room, Davis, right?
Yeah, that was one thing we wanted to do. There was add more melody over top of chords, and definitely want to keep doing that in the future. Give the songs more depth.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's really, really good. Michael's not here tonight, but I had a question for her, because I did, like, when I was reading up on you guys, I did see a lot of your influences and the bands you like, so that's why I asked. Napalm Death's like one of our favorite bands, but I noticed Michael is an Old Man's Child fan, and I've been a fan of Galder's work for quite a while, so I was hoping to ask him like what his favorite record was, but he's not here.
Well, put it in the comments, Michael.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan too, and my favorite one was Vermin.
Okay. Yeah, I was always a big Pagan Prosperity guy, but I was always curious, like, because not many people mention him. They always think of like Dimmu or something like that. And
I liked the drummer on Vermin. He was really good. I'm trying to come up with his name right now. It was Remy something. I can't remember.
Yeah. No,
because That record was just killer drumming on it. Killer.
Yeah, I liked Pagan. I mean, I like a lot of this stuff. I like the In Defiance of Existence too. That was a really good album. Great artwork in that. So, Davis, you mentioned Cacao, and I've been following that band for a while. I actually talk to him occasionally. He sends me promo stuff whenever you put stuff out.
Oh, sick. That's awesome. Yeah.
So when it was mentioned about that band, I was kind of looking back, and like the one thing I was wondering about is the philosophies between both bands is different. So does that ever come to a conflict with you when you write, like, because you're a fan of him, obviously? Do you see conflict there with the philosophies, or can you just bypass that and say that he's he and I'm me? You know.
I mean, depends what kind of philosophy you're talking about.
Well, I think they're a little bit more. I don't want to say Christian, but like they're just a little bit more light. Like it's not really.
Yeah. No, I mean.
Thing.
No, they. Yeah, I mean, I think I think I've noticed changes in there, and I mean, I guess particularly Jeff. I think I've seen, through his work, I've seen changes and oscillations in what he believes, I guess. I've interacted a bit with them before. Like there was a point in time I was on the same web forum as them. Yeah, I mean, I think I take a lot of inspiration from their philosophy towards music. I certainly don't have the skill or talent to match what they can do, but I like their attitude towards music and what they've created. As far as their spiritual beliefs and stuff, I guess I don't really agree. I mean, there was a point in time where, I was a Christian, but that's a long time ago, and I left all that behind because it was just not for me. I guess, so.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in a Christian household, so I know the pain. Like, I just didn't do much for me. Yeah, I was just curious though, because you are a fan of the project, and I was just interested in the different approaches to it thematically.
You said that Cacao was Malaysian?
Indonesian.
Yeah, I think they are. Yeah.
Indonesian?
Yeah.
It surprises me that they're Christian.
Well, I don't know if they're necessarily Christian. They're just like, Sophist sings about a cult and themes like that, where these guys sing about different things, a little bit more lighthearted, I guess. So when it comes to the music industry, obviously, Helge, you work a little bit closer with all the venues and stuff. If you could change anything within the metal industry, what would you do? Like, it could be anything from the streaming and downloading to promoting. What would you change?
Something that's bothered me for a while, and I'm probably going to catch some smoke about it, is
they don't want that smoke, man. They don't want that smoke.
The idea that you can have a 5-band bill. Okay, so there's five bands going to play on this local bill, and 3 of those bands have been in the local scene here for 10 years or more. And it's like, well, you guys just kind of, and these guys have been around for long enough. They can just kind of cherry pick all the nice, good shows on long weekends, stuff like that. And there'll be 3 of those bands on a 5-band bill.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's going to be a band that's been around not quite as long, 3 years, 5 years. And then maybe there'll be 2 of those, and not one band will have young people in it. Not one band will have kids in it. Kids who are barely old enough to be in a bar or playing a show. I think I played shows when I was 14, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And now I would like to see some of those bands that have been around for 10 years or more. You can do it. You can afford it. You can go on a tour. Go tour. go on a tour, and let's see some of these 5-band bills in everybody's scene, not just ours here, but in every scene around. Let's have 3 of those bands be kids, and by kids I mean like under 30, like kids that are under 30, just starting out. Where are they going to gain the experience? When are they going to get to show what they can do, and how are they going to graduate to touring if they never even have the chance to play those first 100 shows that they need to play to be ready to go on tour?
Yeah, I think that's always been my biggest gripe with Metallica, because I saw them for the first time in 2001, and they played a lot of the good classic stuff, but the bill itself with all the openers, I mean, it's not like I have a pretty wide range of rock and metal tastes, so it's not that I'm necessarily bothered by Kid Rock or Korn or whatever, but it to me it was like a missed opportunity for Metallica to actually showcase bands that I felt could have used the help. Would you agree with that sentiment?
Yep, I would. Yeah. And like, if you looked at when Death Angel first released Ultraviolence, have you seen a promo picture of Death Angel when they released?
I think they were like around 14 or 15, right, at the time?
Yep, they looked like they shouldn't have even been out of the house.
They couldn't even have a beer.
Yep.
Right.
And how many? Maybe we don't have a band that good in our scene, or that has that potential. I think we may never know if the old boys keep cherry picking all these good gigs. Any gig that comes up, the last 3 bands on that gig have to be, guys in their late 30s and early 40s, or even older than that. And I just think, go tour and let these younger kids play a few shows. Like, how many bands like that don't we know about because of this kind of failing to expose or showcase younger bands on a 5-band bill? There should be 3 of them on there. The headliner should be an old boy band, sure, okay, because the promoter's got to have something he can count on, right?
Right.
I still think out of a 5-band bill or a 6-band bill, half of them should be brand new, like out for a year and a half, under 20, under 25 for sure. And a band like that old school Death Angel, 1983, I think, would have never had a chance in a system like what we see around some of these scenes around North America.
Yeah, it's a lot tough today. There's a band close to us from DC called Needles. They're like a grindcore death band, and they're pretty young, but they're just still doing local shows. They don't get put on many big bills, and it's a shame, man. Like, because they're really good. So it's like, I want a big band to come out and put them on their bill for a night.
How are they gaining experience? If they play six shows a year,
right.
That band, that kid, those young people in Europe, they might be playing 6 shows in 2 months over there.
Do you think it's a lack of younger people interested in being bands, or do you just think that they're not getting the exposure too?
No, it's basically like the thing is, like, the internet's been a good and a bad thing. It gives you awareness of a lot of bands you probably wouldn't have discovered like online, but now you have a saturation of all these artists coming out, and there's a lot of good ones, but like these bigger bands out there like Metallica that don't use their platform, they want to make the money, which they would make anyway, but they don't want to help the little guy. They say to themselves, but they say it's not their responsibility. I'm like, you're fucking crazy, man. It is your responsibility.
I hate that, because we went to Ozfest when Ozfest was just kind of in its infancy. I mean, And Ozzy always had like a local stage, a second stage, and then they put lots of different bands that may not have been as popular, at least around us. There was always like a local stage or a like second stage. Then later in the night when Ozzy was coming on, there might be like two other larger bands.
The problem with Ozzy is it wasn't until the later years he started actually adding bands like, you know, Cradle of Filth or Nile or something. It's like he probably should have started long ago with something that he let the kids decide who was going to be on. So you had all these new metal acts and, you know, just a little bit more ear candy stuff. So it's, I get it to a degree, but then I'm like, man, it's just like a missed opportunity with some of these bands. And I mean, I'm glad that some of the more ground to earth bands like, you know, Overkill or even Death Angel, they're going to take out bands that are, you know, at least deserve a shot, as you would say.
Yeah, there's I've been to quite a few festivals too, metal festivals, and like most of the ones in Europe will have some kind of feature stage where they're showing you, okay, these are the bands you haven't heard of yet, but you still have to dig pretty deep, like go to local shows over there and really look around.
Mm-hmm.
And like the first time I went to Mexico Metal Fest, there's an interesting story about how I ended up there, but anyway, I ended up at this pre-party for Mexico Metal Fest at this place called Club Iguana or Iguana Club in Monterrey, Mexico. And for me, that was the takeaway of the whole thing. Like the rest of it, I could have, I mean, the headliner was Emperor, pretty awesome. But the takeaway for me, the favorite part of that whole thing was the pre-party and the after party, because the bands that played there were there was a couple that were playing the festival, but most of them weren't yet how you can say big enough yet in the game to play that festival, but they were still awesome, and they were world-class bands playing at that thing. Yeah, and they had a smaller stage there too. I think, I might be wrong, but I think Torture Squad from Brazil was the headliner of the small stage, maybe, that first year I went. Or very close to being the headliner. And for me, the takeaway was, who is Torture Squad? That was about half an hour before they played. I was like, okay, who is Torture Squad? And after, that band is so good, I was mad at myself for not knowing who they were before that show.
That's how you discover bands sometimes, though. That's what's a great thing about it.
I was mad at myself for being so uncool. I had never heard of Torture Squad.
How did I miss this band? What about you,
Yeah.
Davis? Before you answer that question, Davis, like, has anyone told you kind of look like a young Izon at all?
Who?
Izon from Emperor.
Oh, okay. No, nobody's ever said that. When I had long hair, because I used to have hair that was at least halfway down my back, I used to look more like Corpse Grinder, to be honest. But yeah, no one's ever said that. Just you.
Well, hopefully it's a compliment.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think one observation, just to speak to what you guys were talking about, was yeah, I mean, I think it can take 10, 15, 20 years for a metal band to really get notoriety, especially on any kind of international level.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely a long slog. As far as things I would change about the music industry, I mean, probably the biggest thing would be streaming. I think streaming in and of itself is probably a positive development. However, the problem is that it's basically controlled by like a private cartel. It's basically monopolized. And I think that, if it was basically, those platforms were basically turned into some kind of public utility, and almost kind of like a music library everybody's got access to. I think that'd be a big benefit, just to everybody. And I think we could figure out ways to make sure artists get paid fairly instead of some CEOs, making a ridiculous amount of profit off of all this.
There have been some larger, like, pop stars who have taken their stuff off of Spotify and all. They're like, why is
yeah, but they're getting a lot more money than metal guys.
But what they're saying though is it's so bad even for them.
Oh, yeah.
With their millions of listens that it's like you're saying, the CEOs are making all the money, and it is kind of like some kind of cartel. It's like they're controlling everything. They take the money from the top, and you get 5 cents a listen.
It's never changed, man. It's just different now. Like back then, same thing. I mean, Barney went through it with earache, and they get tired of that shit. So for Sophist, what is the immediate plans in the future for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to be doing some more recording in August, I think. I might try to get a couple more tracks planned out and ready to go. Before then, we'll see. We've got 5 right now, and they're actually a little longer this time. 4 or 5 minute range, all of them. So yeah, that should be interesting. Yeah, I mean, just gonna keep doing what we're doing. That was always the goal. Just make as much music as possible. We really enjoy it, and
Be creative.
And hopefully people like it as well. So.
Yeah, hopefully they'll check this video out, and everyone will check you guys out. Before we let you go, I want to say thank you for taking the time to sit down with us and do this. I much appreciate you guys for that. Say hello to Michael for us. Is there anything you'd like to say before we end this?
Yeah, I mean, thanks a lot for having us on. It's always nice to have opportunities like this to
Where
share
can
our
people
stuff.
find you?
Yeah, you can check us out, just sophistmetal.com, or just search Sophist on Bandcamp. We're also on all the streaming platforms, YouTube, etc. So just search us up and check us out.
Yeah, I'll put some of those links in our upload, and then when we share, I'll do the same thing. Again, guys, thank you very much for taking the time. Just hold on a second for us. We're going to say our goodbyes after this is done recording. For the rest of you watching, please go check these guys out. They're very awesome, very cool dudes.
Very creative.
Very hardworking. So support the metal scene and go check these guys out and give them some likes. So again,
thanks for having us. And we'd like to come back once we have something new to show you.
Absolutely, man. We'd love to have you back anytime.
All
right. Thank you all, and we'll see you soon. Thanks, guys. And we're getting ready to get out of here.